Hi, everyone. So today we're going to talk about C cubed, creating and cultivating culture you deserve. And we're going to talk about that hashtag, be the leader you deserve. As a school counselor, a lot of times we focus on students and building culture and rapport with students, and most of our work focuses on students. However, being an administrator in the building, it's really important to help develop the staff culture because ultimately that impacts student culture as well. So this presentation is going to highlight ideas of how to take your staff culture and build it even further, regardless of whether or not you're in person or it's through NTI in a virtual world. So presenter bios. This presentation is being given by Jill Hanley, the principal of Kenwood Elementary, and Laura Donnelly, the counselor of Kenwood Elementary. And we love this picture, Passion Led Us Here, because really our passion for not only students, but our staff building culture really has helped us develop a great leadership style, and it's because of our passion for this that we're even here today.
So the session highlights for today, as we reflected up on what makes the culture so great at Kenwood Elementary, we really broke it down into 3 sections. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about some ideas of ways that you can make staff feel appreciated. Then Laura's going to focus on self-care. As you know, as counselors, you're always helping your students and your staff focus on that. And then we'd be remiss if we didn't discuss having fun with your staff. All 3 of these ideas are going to be kind of founded in the non-negotiables that great culture has.
So ideas for cultivating culture. We love these 2 quotes. A person who feels appreciated will always do more than what is expected. And that's really one of the founding beliefs that we have. So if we are appreciating our staff, they're going to do more than what's expected of them.
And then the other quote that we loved, I remember back to when I was in principal prep, this quote came from an existing principal and it always stuck with me. And that's: a good leader is a person who takes a little more than her share of the blame and a little less than her share of the credit. I think as administrators, we are always trying to set the stage and remove barriers for our staff so that they can do what's important, which is focusing on our students. So it's really important that we're always giving them the accolades. And if things don't go as well, that we're kind of shielding that blame from them. So let's start with appreciation. This is really a pinnacle of what I feel like the principal's role is. While this is a counselor's conference, I think in light of administration, we can never appreciate our staff enough. So we are going to be talking about, in just a moment, you're going to see some examples of the ways that we have made our staff feel appreciated. Some of these are going to be new for you. Some of these are probably things that you're already doing. Please keep in mind this is not an exhaustive list. This is just some of the things that we do. Prior to getting started, we do want to go ahead and give a shout out to our AIC, Brandy Kalin, because her role is she is Little Miss Sunshine, quite frankly, at Kenwood Elementary. So we'd be remiss if we didn't mention her. But some of the things that we're going to talk about and some ideas that you're going to see, our weekly staff spotlight, our staff shout outs, our positivity awards, our appreciation cards, notes, whether it be an email, post-its, or videos, trinkets, Feel Good Friday, and Tweet of the Week. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these ideas. So this first picture up here, you can see Laura in the picture. I know several schools do this, but kind of like our carts. And so there's one of the things about the carts is that they're typically not pre-planned. We like to pre-plan a lot of things here at Kenwood just to make sure that all of our systems and structures work effectively. with one another. However, the carts are usually kind of a pop-up thing. You can always feel when things are getting heavy, whether it's around testing time or around the hurricane season in October with behavior. And we know that staff just kind of really need that pick-me-up. And so right here, what you can see is just the cart. What we put on the cart, it varies. Sometimes it's a coffee bar. Sometimes it's just snacks. Regardless, even if it's just a little bit of chocolate, knocking on the door of the staff and having them come out and select a snack off the cart, you would have thought we were giving away $1 million every time that we did that. The next thing I'm going to highlight right here, I tell you what, when you're in person, it's easy to pop in and give that atta girl pat on the back, leave a little note. During NTI, it made things a little bit trickier. However, we know that a good culture doesn't stop because we're not in the building. So something that we did during this time was during Fridays. When at the beginning of the year, all of our staff, we took an interest survey that included things such as, what are your favorite snacks? What is your favorite restaurant? What's your favorite movie? Just to get a little bit of information so that when we wanted to give little trinkets to our staff, we could personalize it a little bit better. So what you're seeing here in this picture, just every Friday during NTI, I divided the staff up, looked on that list to determine what their favorite snack was, and then went to their house, snapped a quick pic of their house with their snack, left it on their doorstep, and sent them a little text just letting them know how much they were appreciated. You can see right there, a small bag of chips went a very long way just to know how appreciated people were. I know within this time, traveled not just locally, but we had one staff member, she lives in Columbia, Kentucky, so even drove there to deliver, just to personalize things to let people know how much they're appreciated. Next, we're going to talk about right up here, and everything that you're seeing in, outlined in the gold and yellow, the templates our AIC Brandy developed. So we want to, again, make sure that we're giving credit to her. What you'll see at the top are staff shout outs. It's always great for the administrators to be able to give great notes to our staff. However, we wanted to create a platform that allowed staff members to shout out one another. And these shout outs come from things that are professional, such as thank you so much for collaborating with me on that lesson on Friday, to thank you for early releasing my kids when I had an emergency. So really, this is just a way, and these appear in Brandy's weekly newsletter.
And what she did was she created a form, just a Google form, and then she made a QR code and posted them around the building so that people had reminders and a quick way to give another person a shout out.
Yeah, the QR codes were awesome, and where they were placed at the copy machine, while you're waiting in line at the restroom. So while you're standing there doing nothing else, why not go ahead and be reminded to give one of your coworkers a shout out? Below that, we really understand the power of social media. If you have not yet started Twitter, sharing, creating the greatness that's going on in your school, please, 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 this is a plug for that. Somebody's going to tell your narrative, and so it might as well be you. But what Brandy has done is, again, in her weekly newsletter, is that she kind of goes through and captures and calls it the tweets of the week. So within a week's time, any of our staff members that have posted a tweet, that appears back in Brandy's newsletter. And that's one just to give another set of recognition. But also, because not all of our staff members are on Twitter, this allows them to see the great things that are being recognized out in the social media land. Next, we'll come over here. And so from time to time, although we have a great culture, you can just kind of get that sense of things are heavy, and sometimes that demon of negativity tries to kind of climb in. So we decided that we would start doing what's called the Positivity Award. So what we were looking for is, in that time where it feels heavy for everyone, we are looking for those outliers who, despite all of the heaviness of things going on, they are rising above it and they are remaining positive, not just with us, but with other staff members, with kids. And so I know probably by about the second week of doing this, things really started turning around for us, and we just kind of really watched it. Sometimes it's just a reminder to check yourself, to be honest with you. We all get there. Even as administrators, we all get there. But that focus on positivity really helped people examine their own behaviors and attitudes. One of the things that we mentioned were trinkets. Probably have several pages of these that we could put down. But from time to time, little, like I mentioned with the baked lays, little things can go a long ways. And so this was just down here in the left-hand corner was just an example from during, I think that looks, according to the leprechaun, was around St. Patrick's Day. And so that particular trinket was just, we went out to Sam's or Costco and bought a couple big trays of cookies, sectioned those off, and delivered those to teams during PLCs that day. Just a reminder that we were lucky to have them a little play on the festivity of St. Patrick's Day. So again, those things go a long way. Next thing that we'll highlight for appreciation is, and again, it's you can see that it's bordered in that yellow because Brandy created this template as well. So we started doing staff spotlights. And so essentially what we're looking for as an administrative team when we have our admin meeting weekly, we really look at the week before at a staff member that has kind of gone above and beyond or just have really stood out for one reason or another, and then they get recognized. So in addition to this being recognized on Twitter, if the staff member also has a personal Facebook page, then it gets recognized on their own personal Facebook page just so that their friends and family can see the recognition that goes along with this. It gets printed out, set outside of their classroom door so that the kids can see it as well. One other thing that I want to go back to with staff shout-outs, probably about midway through the year, what we did was that we added a QR code to send home to families, and then also kind of like a little staff shout-out bucket on the front desk for families to be able to shout out our staff as well. There in the bottom right-hand corner, just a celebration. That was actually Valentine's Day. So with PLCs falling on that day, just kind of creating an atmosphere of love. So little things that go along just to let staff members know you are appreciated. I know as teachers, we often hear about the novelty of things, and adults are no different. So again, this is not an exhaustive list, but these are just some of the ideas that we wanted to highlight that take place either in person or virtually through the time of NTI.
Okay, so self-care. As a counselor, I'm always preaching self-care to our staff. And so these are just some things that we have done as an administrative team to not only, I guess, preach isn't the best word to use, but really promote self-care and get staff members on board doing these certain things. So during NTI, Jill created something for each day of the week. And then we had something prior to that we always did on Wednesdays. So during NTI, Jill started Motivational Monday. And we're going to show examples of all of these in the next slide. Talk About It Tuesday. Wellness Wednesday was the thing that we were doing consistently and regularly while we were in person. What You Doing for You Wednesday was something that Jill created for NTI. Again, Thankful Thursday was something created for NTI. And then monthly self-care challenges were something that we did intermittently. They weren't every month, but they were something that we did kind of intermittently throughout the year. And then Order Out Fridays was something that Brandy took care of. And sometimes we had food trucks come in. So on this next slide, right here in the corner, Thankful Thursday. So Jill created some templates during NTI, since we weren't able to be together, just a collaborative document for us to all have the opportunity to share our gratitude for on Thursday morning. So on Thursday mornings, she'd send out a quote or just something inspiring via email, send out the link for Thankful Thursday, and then we were able to go in and just share our gratitude for the day. So that was just a really nice reminder during NTI, during that stressful virtual world, to remember to give gratitude for the things that were going well. This next picture, Brandy did Order Out Fridays, and instead of her collecting orders, collecting all of the money, all of that exhaustive process that goes in for something like that, we decided to do only focus on restaurants who had an order ahead where you could select the time. She would give everybody the time and the place in her newsletter to encourage them to read her newsletter, which was a brilliant idea. And then we would get Panera or Chipotle or Qdoba, places that allowed you to select your order ahead of time, put in the time, and then you went ahead and paid for it yourself. So Brandy would go and pick up the orders of the people who had let her know that they had submitted an order for that particular day. So a lot of times it was Panera just because it was convenient, and then sometimes it would be other things. This next picture just says kindness is the gift everyone can afford to give. And so Wellness Wednesday, right down here, you'll see a picture of what it looked like in our staff lounge. Wellness Wednesday was something that started a few years ago. I decided to print out quotes and send them via email, and then just put out like a light snack or breakfast. And one of the things that I want to say is that I know it sounds like we're spending a lot of money on trinkets, on goodies, on food, and we do spend a good amount of money. But what we did to offset the cost so that we're not always, it's not always coming out of our pocket, at the beginning of the school year, we decided to make our social dues for our school go towards these kinds of things. So we set amount for social dues. I think it started at $20, and that was great. It didn't quite stretch through the whole year. So this year we made it $30. And anybody who wanted to participate in these kinds of things went ahead and paid social dues so that they could, so that we had these available. Now, we didn't say if you didn't pay your social dues, you don't get these things. However, most people, just because they really enjoy this, were more than willing to participate in the social dues. So I was the one who collected the social dues, just because most of this was for Wellness Wednesday and those staff carts that I would purchase those things when I was out picking up things for Wellness Wednesday. So this kindness is a gift for everyone can afford to give is just an example of one of the quotes that I would put on the table.
One of the things I will say too is that Laura is always in charge of Wellness Wednesday, and so she would always talk about the emails she would get back from people based on the different quotes that were out. And so I can say that once I started with Motivational Monday, I was able to understand that as well. And so when we talk about filling your bucket, I think you will find that when you will probably be surprised by the people who will respond to some of your quotes if you choose to do this. You just never know what someone is going through. And so knowing that just a small quote can lift someone up or help them get through the next day or the next week is such a kind of a gratifying thing in and of itself.
And initially, I didn't anticipate the impact that emailing the quotes would have, but what I found was that staff members would print off and cut out and post just on their office space or their classroom space the quotes that really resonated with them. So that was really kind of an exciting thing to see as I walk around the buildings, to see that somebody has printed off and cut out one of the quotes that I sent out. One of the things that has kind of developed since the beginning of Wellness Wednesday, when I became a counselor, I was really young and I didn't have an understanding of really what true leadership meant for me. I just kind of thought that because I became a counselor, people would go along with the things that I wanted to put in place or whatever. And as I really started reading about leadership and transformative leadership in particular, one of the things that I realized was really important was that the rapport that I build with staff needed to really be developed to be a true leader. So I took Brene Brown's example of vulnerability and started including some of that in weekly emails. So for example, during NTI, during one of our staff meetings on Tuesday, I had MK with me, my 2-year-old, because daycare wasn't open. And I was trying to multitask during our staff meeting because that was required, having a 2-year-old. And somehow I accidentally took myself off mute while Jill was presenting in our faculty meeting, and my child was screaming. And so one of my coworkers sent me a text really quickly that said, "Mute yourself." And mortified, I went back and was scrambling to try to mute myself on Zoom. But I think all of that transpired so quickly, a lot of people didn't even realize it was me. Jill didn't even know it was me, that my child was screaming. But I heard her say, "Woo, somebody's not happy." And I knew that she was talking about my child. So in my Wellness Wednesday email for the next day, I was vulnerable and said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened." But that's just an example of how we're all being flexible right now. We're all having to multitask because all of us are doing more than what we ever anticipated would ever be expected for this. And just being vulnerable, admitting, "Oh my gosh, that was my child," made other people feel a little bit more comfortable when they had something that messed up. Because as leaders, if we're setting that example that I'm not perfect either, these are the things that aren't going well for me right now either. So it's okay if things aren't perfect for you right now. It really goes a long way.
We also do a lot of promoting of failing forward, understanding that all great things fail a whole lot of times before they are successful. And so like Laura mentioned, as leaders, it's important for our staff that vulnerability is key. And so I think sometimes that goes counter to what a lot of people think. Leaders should be perfect, leaders should be strong, leaders should be courageous. And yes, we're all of those things, but people have to understand that you are human first. And so allowing staff members to see that human element inside you really does go a long way.
In the top right corner, that was what Jill started for Wednesdays during NTI. Wellness Wednesday still continued with the quotes in the email. Obviously, we didn't have the snacks in person, but for NTI, Jill created What You Doing for You Wednesday. So just another way to promote self-care. So people would post pictures, give a short snippet of what they were doing to really practice self-care for them that day. And that was fun just to see what everybody was doing. Down here, before NTI hit, I had developed a March self-care challenge just because March tends to be a really tricky month for staff members. And you probably all know what months are really difficult after, like as we're leading up to spring break, but we're not quite there. People get anxious, and as staff members' patience dwindles, student behaviors increase, and that's a correlation because of our culture. So we really wanted to promote keeping teachers healthy, keeping teachers happy during that month of March, so that behaviors didn't spiral out of control before spring break. So we created this March self-care challenge, and it just said things like journal for 15 minutes, doodle, or color in mandala, turn your social media off for 24 hours, just different ways to practice self-care. I went around to different local businesses, and I found 3 places willing to donate. The Salt Cave, and please don't go there saying Laura Donnelly said you would donate to our cause, because they might not. But these are the places that donated for this particular challenge. The Louisville Salt Cave, the Weightless Float Center, which has like a sensory deprivation tank, and they also donated a sauna session, and a local nail place over here by Kenwood that actually had their kids all went to Kenwood, so that was Tip and Toes. They all donated gift cards. Once NTI hit, I knew that we were going to need this more than ever, and they were all local businesses. So I just, as a leader, decided to commit. I was really promoting supporting local businesses during that time, so I just committed to buying a matching gift card from each of those businesses. So then there were 6 total winners. So what they had to do was they had to either get like a bingo, so 5 in a row, diagonal in a line, vertical, horizontal, it didn't matter, they could do a coverall for an additional chance. But then there was a drawing for those 6 winners at the end. And that was a really fun challenge. And I hate that NTI hit right in the middle of that, but I think it was even more needed once that did. And then this last picture over here in the corner, we've had food trucks come a couple of times. Lexi Lou's, I think, was another one. Boss Hogs, his mom is a principal, so he's all about supporting educators. But food trucks, sometimes a lot of them have a minimum, so you have to call around just to see who's willing to work with you and availability. If you want to have a food truck, they book up months in advance, so call ahead. But that was just another fun eat out, because just the mundane of eating your own lunch can get kind of boring in a school. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is having fun. So a few years ago, our culture here in JCPS was not the best from the top down. So we really, during that time, started focusing on having fun, because we were stressed out as an admin team. Our teachers were stressed out. I think that's when we were going through the audit of people were filling out the workplace surveys for salary study or whatever. And it was just really kind of a toxic culture. So one of the things that we always do is we focus one whole day of that back to school, those first 2 days for teachers, one whole day is dedicated to having fun. It's rapport, team building. So we've done scavenger hunts. We did a ghost run where we gave them clues to go around the city, and we put clues that were in the neighborhoods of where our students live, just so teachers were out and about seeing where our kids are, where they live. We would give them a landmark, and they had to send back in a selfie, and then we kind of put together a collage just so everybody could see at the end. And just one of the funniest things that I think has ever happened, Miss Williams, our assistant principal, created the clues for the ghost run, and she was trying to make it a clue for one of the Olmsteads, and it said something about I can't remember exactly what the quote was, but somehow one of our teams ended up in front of a showgirls school, place that's not very PC, but they took a picture there, and when they sent it back, we played it for the whole staff. Everybody was just, almost in tears, because that's where they ended up. We just had so much fun.
The great news about the scavenger hunt is that the staff has a great time while they're out building collective rapport with their team. And then we have, even though as an admin team, we stay back, we have just as much fun in the afternoon when we go and play it all back. So it really is just it goes from the small team to large staff team building.
And we made it kind of a competition. So we had teachers that were whole teams that were blocking each other in when they'd get to the same location so that they could get out first. It just really is a lot of fun. We did an obstacle course where we really focused on the different learning styles and multiple intelligences. So we gave people options at each obstacle course based on their preference. That was a whole lot of fun too. Teachers know that first day back is going to be something fun. And so you'll see on the next slide that without us even saying anything, they'll come dressed up as a team. And it's just, we have probably the most fun all school year on that day.
And one of the things too is that we certainly want to get everyone back with our goal of maintaining and continuing to cultivate that great culture. The other thing, however, is that we're always trying to model what are best practices for adults, our best practices for students. So we always want our staff to remember that even in March, April, right before K-Prep, we can't forget that there has to be some fun that emerges in your lessons. So everything that we plan, again, even though it has the underlying tone of being a great culture, we're always still trying to model best practices that we want teachers to then take into the classroom with their students.
The next thing is cards, and I actually did not put a picture of this on the next slide, but whether it's just a little handwritten note, we often keep blank cards here just so that we can write a little note to a teacher just to give kudos or say, we see you. During NTI, we did a play on Tiger King because that was the thing during self-quarantine. So we did a Photoshop card of the three of us, Jill, Katie, and myself, with the Tiger King theme, and just sent it, printed that on Shutterfly and sent it out to staff just to say thanks. We know that you're really going above and beyond right now, and we appreciate that. All right, the next thing is games at faculty meetings. So especially during that time when it was a toxic culture, we we did the human Hungry Hippos game. We did Minute to Win It games. But then we also really have fun with monthly celebrations. So costume contests and social outings. Anytime we can dress up, it's always a good time. So here you'll see our Halloween costume, not this past year, the year before. I can't even remember the name of it. What's that movie called?
Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus, yes. I was the only one who hadn't seen it, so I had to watch it before that so I could really get into character. And we have a full-on costume contest here at Kenwood. So every Halloween, we dress up, and then each team dresses up, and we have a winner with air quotes because there's no really prize for winning, but the winning team gets to choose the winner for the next year.
Just kind of the bragging rights. And so this has truly emerged over every year. It seems like it gets bigger and better because every team is out to be the best.
Oh, yeah. And so the kids will sit out in the hallway and we'll have like a staff parade. Which gets a little tricky if you have a newcomer family who joins your school that day, which we've had in the past. But just things to keep in mind while you're having fun. But that really has been the best day. This right here is just that picture of the human Hungry Hippos game. That was really easy to do with the little scooters that our PE teacher had, some baskets that we already had, and we blew up a bunch of balloons. Over here is another day that we always dress up. Our admin team for our winter celebration every year, that last day before the winter break, we make breakfast for our staff. So when they come in, we bring a little griddle and make eggs and a waffle maker, and we
sausage and bacon and you name it. That's kind of like a smorgasbord for our staff and the bus drivers. They look forward to that all year long.
And that's honestly just a really inexpensive way for us to say thank you. And our staff looks forward more to that than some little thing that we could buy. Down here is that one of those back to school days where our kindergarten team came in dressed up. We hadn't even told them what we were doing. They just knew to come ready. This is that same, actually the same back to school day where we were doing a multiple intelligences challenge. We actually mixed up the team, so nobody got to stay in their comfort zone with their core team. And they had to create different things. So they actually created a tune to a popular song so that they could share some message of what they were doing. This was on the Ghost Run several years back. The Manslick Roller Dome was one of the stops, and that's our ECE team taking their selfie there. This one of my favorite pictures ever of our Minute to Win It game. We do this with students every year for our K-Prep rally, but we decided to do this with staff just to start off our faculty meeting by having some fun. We gave everybody a cookie, and the goal was they had to put it on their forehead and get it to their mouth without using their hands. So lots of fun.
All right, so we've shared several ideas, again, not an exhaustive list, but we just wanted to share some of the ideas and pictures of the great things that we did. What I will say is that none of this is possible without what we consider to be some of our non-negotiables. The first one, I think, and I'm going to speak through the lens of a principal because I realize as a counselor, your role looks a little bit differently. But before I will get started, though, is what I will say is that what makes this possible for us is that our admin team, as teachers, we understand the importance of strong teams and professional learning communities. It's no different as an administrative team. In order for our building to run effectively, we have to be on the same page. And so as an admin team, we are constantly, every single meeting, culture and climate is at the forefront of everything we discuss. That is one of the norms, is that we are always putting our finger on the pulse of everything going on. So the first thing we're just going to talk about a little bit is just transparency. Nothing kills culture quicker than people who think you are being dishonest or you are trying to hide something or pit teams against one another. So I think the more that people can understand the decision making and feel vested, the better things can be. Follow through. I think we've all worked for leaders who have all these great ideas in August and then you never hear about them again until maybe the next August. So I think that when you say you're going to do something, you have to commit to doing that. And so one of the ways, and we're not going to talk too much about this is really a whole other presentation, but one of the things that helps keep us effective and following through is that in the summer we always have an admin retreat. And so we kind of map out our year, kind of a skeleton of things that are going on. And we're all plugging it into our calendars because we know how quickly our calendars fill up. So we prioritize the things that we know particularly have to do with culture. Communication. I go back to everybody, nothing is worse besides the transparency and follow-through part than when people are like, what's going on here? I have no idea. I didn't know that was going to happen. So, and understanding that not everyone communicates in the same way. So if there are times that you felt like you've said or written the same thing about 48 times, that's okay. You probably have, because you'll still have 3 staff members who, quote unquote, didn't get that memo. So just making sure that you're being as clear with your communication as possible. And then that last one, just know yourself and know your staff. It really starts with understanding who you are and know that your staff is different. I know that we have done a couple of different things as it relates to, we've done an emotional intelligence quiz where people kind of understand that. We've done things kind of similar to a Myers-Briggs. We've done things with like the color assessment. And that just, again, so that people understand a little bit more about themselves, but then also about their teammates, so that when we're working as a team, we look to one another's strengths and areas for growth and how we can support one another.
Okay, so wrap up. We had our 3 big parts of culture, which were appreciation, self-care, and fun, which can't take place without those non-negotiables. This last one, want more. So one of the things that we'd love to do is share, especially that Wellness Wednesday. If that's something that you'd like to get your hands on, we would love for you to join our email list. And what we're going to do is start sharing those things. So each time I create a Wellness Wednesday, it's going to go out in an email to anybody who wants it. It will be in an editable template so that you can change the quotes if they don't really resonate with you or you think they won't resonate with your staff, or you can change the message. So I'm going to give you the message, that vulnerability message that I'm going to put in there every week. You can have that, and then if you want to keep it, you can keep it in there, or you can change it to really match whatever it is that you are currently working through.
I think in just a final words, you're sitting here thinking, okay, this is all great, but what if my principal doesn't understand the importance behind this? I always say that the way that you make things happen is that you make things happen. People don't know what they don't know. So as the counselor, helping your whole admin team get on the same page, remember, we can't have a good culture for students and families if we don't first have a good culture amongst our adults. And so understanding, like Laura started by saying, is that, yes, thankfully, after all these years, a primary role that you have is servicing students as a real counselor and not just a pusher of paperwork. However, your role also is largely vested in the culture of adults. So I think as we all move forward and kind of redefine what that role of a counselor looks like, I think that's a good in, is that you are all encompassing with not only students, but with adults as well. And I think that'll give you the biggest bang for your buck.
And I think Wellness Wednesday is really a great place to start. You don't have to go out and buy snacks like I did. You could just send out the email with the quotes, and you could post them around the building, whatever you want to do. But just starting to do some of those things so that your admin team kind of sees and can buy in is a really great way to promote that. So it doesn't have to cost you any money up front. You could do just the email and the quotes and just model kind of what you want to show with culture.
All right, guys. Well, we hope everyone has a great school year getting started. So I guess for this point, that's all we've got. So we'll take questions at this time.
All right. Thank you so much for attending. We'll give credit for Slides Mania for our PowerPoint template. I really do love those. And we can't wait to hopefully see you guys in person soon.